In this video, I will talk about inner classes in Java. So inner classes are classes that can actually go inside a class or method, or they can be anonymous. There are several kinds of inner classes. The ones that I'm going to talk in this video are the most basic ones. They're member inner classes. Okay. So say, for example, I have a class city. You'll see why I import random later. But let's say I have a class city that has a name. Well, here's the thing. I want to have special features for the people that live in this city. So I don't want an external class for people, for person. I don't want an external class for that can be used by everyone. I want each city with a very unique person class associated to the city. I will use inner classes in cases where I really want to encapsulate aspects of the outer class, right? The outer class being the class that encompasses the inner class. So for example, here, for whatever reason, I want to create a person class that's unique to my city class. So I can do something like this. I'm going to erase some of these lines and I will put them back in a second. So I can create a protected class person inside the public class city, all right? And the person can also have a name. So the first thing to notice here is that an inner class, they can share variable names with the outer class. This can also have methods. So I'm going to create a constructor for the person that actually initializes the name. I'm going to create a getName, okay, variable, and I'm going to create a toString method. So here it is. So I have a constructor for person that takes in a name and sets this.name equals name. So here's something interesting. This.name refers to this instance of a person class. So this refers to the name of the person class. And this name refers to the name passed in the parameters. This doesn't change. It's the same thing as any regular constructor, right? So whatever you type, whatever variable name you use here, it's assumed to be a parameter or an existing variable in the class. And if you use this, it's assumed to be of the class that you're talking about. Then I have a getName method. Of course, it's a string that basically returns the name. And if I say name without this, and if it's not a parameter, of course, just like in any class, it's going to take a member variable name from that class, which would be this one. We're still all within the person class. And then the toString, here's something interesting. Well, what if I want to access this name within this inner class? Well, look at this. So this will return for every person that you want to print out. A toString method will say I am, and then this.name, which will be the person's name. And it'll say one of, and then population.length, I'm going to define it in a second. But it'll say city.this.name. This is how I refer to the name in the city class as opposed to the name in the person class. So I will put the outer class name, then .this, then dot, and then the variable name. So what I'm going to have in this city is an array of persons, right, called population. And that's going to be the population of the city. And that's how I can say, I don't know, I am John, one of, I don't know, 10 people in whatever, metropolis. So I create this array, private person array population, and I can use this inner class as if it were any other regular class within the city class. So I'm using the inner class as a regular class within the outer class, which is city. And then I'm going to use a constructor. This is going to be a little complicated. So, I mean, not complicated, but it'll do a couple of things. So here's my constructor for city. Remember, I'm not in person anymore. Class person starts here and ends right there. And it's a member inner class. And I can use it as if it were a regular class. So this is my constructor for the city class. And I will enter the population, the number of people, and a name for the city. In there, I will initialize this population. It's going to be an array of persons with a given population. I treat person just like a regular class. And this.name, now that I'm in the city, this.name refers to this name in line 5. The name of the city is going to be whatever I pass in this parameter. So I initialize the two variables of the city class. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a string of possible names for people in my city. John, Jane, Fran, and Kim. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go from 0 to the total population. I'm going to create a random seed. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to get an integer between 0 and the length of the names array, the length of this array, right? And I'm going to get the name that corresponds to that integer. So basically, I'm randomly picking a name from this array, okay? So what I'm going to do here is a loop from 0 to the population, and I will be entering persons in the population with random names. That's what I'm doing here. So just to recap, I have an outer class city and inner class person. The outer class city has a name and a population. The inner class person only has a name. The inner class person can access its own name variable in the same way that any class accesses their own name or their own member variables. But the person can also access the city's name variable by typing the name of the class, then the name of the variable. Okay? And then in the constructor of city, I'm basically just putting a lot of random people with random names. That's all I'm doing. Okay? Now I'm going to use, and we can compile this. Now, I'm going to use a demo class, okay, to just demonstrate how to use that, and then we'll see a couple of other things. So I'm going to create a class demo city that will actually basically construct a city with 10 people and print their names. So first I create a city variable called C. It's going to be a new city, and then I pass the parameters. This is just like creating any class. This is going to be Metropolis with 10 people. Then I'm going to erase this. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go from 0 to 10, because remember I gave it a population of 10. So from 0 to 10, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a person variable, and this is how I create a person variable that's a person's inner class from a city. I would say city.person. That is the declared type P. And then the actual type is going to be that person, right? So I'm going to get the population and get the ith element of that array of people. And then I'm going to print that person. So let's see how this runs. So I'm going to compile this and run it. Oh, so in the city, I did not do a get population method. Let's do it. There it is, get population method. All right, so now I'm going to compile this. And I'm going to run it. Execute. And then here, it's creating the city, and then it's putting a lot of people in it. And then it says, you know, I'm Fran, one of 10 people in Metropolis. I'm Jane, one of 10 people in Metropolis. I'm John and Jane. So randomly names one of 10 people in Metropolis. So I've effectively used a person class to fill this array of population, and this person class, it has one of its methods actually uses a variable of the outer class here. And in a very different class, I can receive an element of type city.person like so. Now, what if I wanted to create a person here, right? I can probably do this. This is a way to create it. You say city.person new guy, just like we did city.person p, new guy, equals, and then the instance of the city class, the instance of the outer class, and then dot new, space, and then the name of the inner class, and then whatever parameters that constructor requires. So I create a variable city person new guy. I'm just gonna put it here after the for loop. city.person new guy, I'm creating a new person variable, and because the person is tied to the instance of a city, I need an instance of a city.new, and then the word person, then the parameters, And then I'm just going to print that new guy, and we're going to notice a couple of interesting things. So I'm going to compile this and run it. So here it printed the 10 citizens of Metropolis, and then I am Jesse, one of 10 people in Metropolis. Notice how, because this is tied to the instance C, it used 10 people of Metropolis. It used the same name as the city and the same population, right? Although I didn't add it to the array or change the array, it's just that the variables in C are initialized to 10 in Metropolis, right? So the array is of length 10 and the city name is Metropolis, right? So this new person will use the variables of C. I hope this clarifies a little bit about inner classes. You can try this example yourself. Bye.